Hey guys, in today's video you will be seeing me speak at the Festival of Education. I want to say thank you to everyone that came to the event. I want to say thank you to John, thank you for all the organisers, and just thank you for giving me the platform to speak about my experience and how we can help and support people with disabilities and autism. So guys, before the video starts, I'm going to show you a few clips that happened after we done our speech. So here are the clips. I'm at the Festival of Education. I'm here with the one, the only, John Piers.
Afternoon, people. Very excited.
Did you see the video? Did you see it? Hello, people. This will probably be a long video. I'm going to go for a long video.
Yeah, let's do a long video. I mean, it's a beautiful day today. We had a wonderful audience. Max was absolutely superb today. Max has had offers of new opportunities in new schools, and the potential, stand here my friend, we might be writing a book.
We might be writing
a book. We've just been approached by a publishing company, very exciting. Sage, wonderful publishing company, would like like Max and I to write a book together, and I'd be very keen to do that.
So yeah, I mean, that's a really nice thing, I think, to have from it, is someone think it's that great to write a book, you know.
Yeah.
So me and John, we're going to do this.
We are going to do this. I'm really excited already.
We don't know a name, so put comments down below what you think it should be called. We've got some ideas.
We'll tell you a bit about the focus of the book in part 2. We'll have a think, and we'll be talking a bit more about that later.
Yeah. But now I'm going to try and track down Piers Morgan.
Let's just show this off. We're now going to go and find our VIP area where we've got snacks and hot drinks, cold drinks, nice area to sit. Should be good.
And if I see Piers Morgan, I'll say hello.
The right way.
What?
Hey?
How does it go, John?
Am I being filmed?
Yeah.
Afternoon, people. Actually, it's been a really nice afternoon again. Met some really good people, part of a broader network of sort of advocates, and I like this word, agitators, who are really trying to raise the profile of children, young people, adults with additional needs, let's say, special educational needs, disabilities, full spectrum of needs explored here. We've just come out with a very, very interesting discussion around PDA, or pathological demand avoidance syndrome, and I know I've worked with young people with a diagnosis of that condition before, and you really do have to work more carefully as a teacher to ensure that those children and young people have a positive experience of education. And what I really liked about that talk, Steph, who gave the talk, mentioned about the importance of relationships, trust and language, and Max and I have explored that kind of thing through our 1 to 7 campaign. We've also had the opportunity to sit and listen to a group of really, really experienced parents who have been very engaged in the educational experience of their children and young people. Some have had very positive experience of support from schools and staff, and others have experienced what some parents experience around a kind of battle to get the right kind of support. So hearing insights from parents today, I thought it's been a wonderful experience. And how about your day, Max? How's your day been today? I've said enough. I can't stop talking, Max.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I could keep going, Max. I've got about another 10 hours of this stuff to talk about.
My day was good.
Good. Is that it?
Yeah.
Welcome. Let me show you around my garden, Max. This is
John, Piers Morgan was there.
Oh, he's down. Smackdown. WrestleMania.
You know what my favourite book was? No. Going on a bear hunt, gonna catch a big one.
Oh, going on a bear hunt. Yeah, can't go over it.
Yeah, can't go over it.
Can't go under it.
You've got to go through it.
Right, let's go through it. Let's go through it.
Someone's not there, is there?
Okay.
I thought it was a bigger garden.
No, there was a deer in here yesterday.
Really?
Yep, deer wandering around in here.
Oh
Managed
dear.
to get yourself stuck. Oh dear. Classic comedy moment there, Max.
Someone shoot it.
Oh dear. No. I just kept hearing it in the bushes. Stuck there. We'll have to go over it.
Exactly.
Okay, we'll have to go over it. One more part of the bear story. There is one we can go under.
Where?
Under here.
There's
an archway that we can go under. And then we've hit the bear story. We've gone through it, round it, over it, and now we're going to head under it.
Where's the bear then?
The bear? I don't know about the bear. Here.
It's not quite the same though, is it? What does this lead to?
It's a dead end. It's actually a dead end. We'll have to climb through the roses. We'll have to go through it again.
God's
I'm not
sake.
joking, we will have to go. We will have to go through it. There literally isn't an exit.
I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Now it will be going into the actual speech that we did, me and John did. So it is a long video, but guys, here it is. I hope you enjoy.
So, good afternoon everybody and a very warm welcome. I hope you're having a good day so far. We're very pleased to be joining you today. So Max and I will begin with an introduction and then we'll walk through our session today with you. So,
Perfect. So today we'll be talking about learning together. Now on the side over here you'll see a hashtag of 127. So if anyone's on social media, you can use that hashtag. There's a funny story behind that is John used to be my former teacher, and one day he asked me in the class to write down 1 to 7. He asked the whole of the school.
I've been doing my geography lesson, we've got the learning objective, we've got the sort of date and everything else, and I said to Max and everybody else, can we have the numbers 1 to 7 down the side of your page, please?
And I wrote down 1, 2, 7.
1, 2 and 7.
So
Yeah. A nice initial learning experience for me, particularly around the kind of language that we use in school context and the kind of instructions we give and all that kind of stuff. So, an interesting learning experience.
So, I just wanted to go through really about us. So, I'll hand over to you, John.
Thank you. Yep, so my name's John Reed. I'm lucky enough to have worked in primary settings, secondary settings. Sort of began this journey in talking together a few years ago, but Max is going to talk a little bit about his progress since leaving the independent special school.
So I'm Max. You can see John's photo is very standard. Mine's very photoshopped. See what happens to take off the age.
That's what it is.
So I'm a senior IT analyst. I've just started at a new company now. I also do acting. I've been on YouTube for 10 years, still haven't made it. Still haven't made it. Not yet. Ambassador for the National Autistic Society, and also I go around doing public speaking to help raise awareness for people with autism and all disabilities. First slide I'll be talking about is schools. So you'll see me there with my backwards head cap. That was a
Very cool.
primary school that was, and then later on in secondary school. So I always talk about what helped versus what didn't. So at primary school, I think because of, I suppose at the time as well, I mean, because as times evolve, I think more people are understanding learning conditions and becoming to be more supportive of them. As when I was at secondary school, you know, my mum used to go down to school all the time. They used to go, nothing wrong with him. You know, he's just badly behaved, or he's just not as bright as what the other kids are. And I think as a parent that frustrates you even more because you know there's something there, and all you want to do is to be able to help them. And without having that label, it's very difficult to help the person. Some of the things that helped, as I say, I got on with a PE teacher, and he was just a lovely guy. Basically, one day I can't remember what it was about, but we had an argument basically. And every time he used to see me, because in this argument I went to him, I went, like that to him. I went, he didn't like it. So every time I walked up to him, he used to go, are we like this today, Max? Or are we like this?
Judging the emotions is important.
And if I gave him the thumbs up, it would be, I'm alright. And he always knew my mood just based on a
something quite simple, but
exactly.
quite
Didn't need to speak about it, and it was just. And if it was that, it was like, right, speak to me if you want. If you don't, you don't have to. Also, there was a teacher in year 5 who saw that I was struggling, saw that I found learning quite difficult and socialising very difficult as well. So what she did was she gave me my own desk in the class. She gave me, she said, bring your photos in of family and of good memories, and she stuck them on the wall. But also what she did, she made me this green box. And what the green box was is she knew I used to get really anxious about things. So what she said was if you ever have a thought or a stress, I want you to write it down, put it in the box. And if you want to talk about it at the end of the day, we can, or we can go over to the bin at the end of the day and we can throw all the thoughts in the bin. And basically what she wanted to do with that is, not only she wanted me to realise how something at that point could have been really stressful, like it was like the end of the world. And then it kind of taught me of such a sense, actually, that really mattered at the beginning of the day, but now it doesn't really matter. And she got me through that concept of how kind of anxiety can work. Because at one point it's really bad, intense, and you shut down, you can't go on. But by putting it in the box and leaving it, throughout the day, when I come back to read it, it was like, why was I worried about that for?
So helping to understand the emotions and so on, and maybe a particular context where they might occur, but actually a space to be able to discuss those emotions is really important.
And the amazement thing was the amount of things that you pulled out afterwards, and you thought, what was that about? I can't. And as you say, most of the time it was sorted, but in my head at the time, that was crucial. A good example was they'd done a talent contest at the school, and at this time I loved singing. Now I can't sing for anything. I sing to get people to go out the room, not in. But I was, one day, I never told you this story as well, but one day we were in a talent contest, and at this time it wasn't, just like get it up on YouTube kind of thing, it was CDs. So we brought our CDs in to play the song. Anyway, this CD had stopped playing, and it kept getting stuck. Also, like an old record, it just kept getting stuck. So we couldn't do our act. But we added such a comedy factor to it that we actually got through to the next bit. But throughout that period, I couldn't go to lesson, I couldn't concentrate because I was so worried about people voting and not putting us through. And the PE teacher had to pull me aside because he ran it and he said, look, you're through, all right? Don't tell anyone I've told you, but you are. And, it allowed me, but even things like that could have been something at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, it didn't really matter.
And how about your next teacher with the sort of box that was set
up?
Yeah,
so one thing that didn't help was when I moved up to year 6, you kind of new teacher, new everything, new things to learn. But one of this thing was I was also leaving the teacher that really understood my anxiety and my special needs. And the new teacher just grabbed the green box that the old one had made and said, you won't be needing this anymore, will you? And she threw it in the bin. And from that point, it was very hard for me because it was also, it become a kind of coping mechanism for myself to be able to, and having that support there really was nice just to talk through. So having someone kind of disregard that as if it was nothing, because to them it probably wasn't, but to us, that's quite a big part of how we learn, a big part of our life, a big part of our social interaction with people. That box did get me through year 5. And it's quite a big statement to make, but it's true.
So there's a big transition there with a change of teacher, change of expectations, a bit of time settling in and so on. And how about secondary school? How about the experiences in secondary school?
So, secondary school, I went to mainstream. So all my friends went up to a school up the road because we all lived locally. So they went up to, you might have heard of it, and I went to a school called. The reason I went to because they had an ASD unit there. So my mum and also people that was involved in making the decision of where I go thought it'd be best to go to the ASD unit. They only take about 2 people a year, so I was very fortunate to get in. But once I got there, it was very hard to make friends. It was going through a tough time at that stage anyway, because my granddad had just passed and things like that was very hard for me. And all I wanted to do was make friends. There, I was making bad decisions like hiding under a table in lessons, and they would egg you on because they like have a bit of a laugh, and even if it's at somebody else's expense, as long as it's not them, they're okay. And before long, I slowly saw people not just me, but people also who struggled, you know, would be kind of ushered out of the ASD unit. So they would kind of go, actually, it's not working, you need to go somewhere else. And it was also almost like the people who had a condition, who was behaving, going to lessons, doing as what they were told, you know, they would stay. So it's almost like the people that were struggling was actually victimised and said, actually, we can't deal with this.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting decision. A lot of what people are focusing on today and around the last couple of days are notions of inclusion and how complex inclusion is, in fact, about the different school settings and all that kind of stuff. So there's a really interesting opportunity there to think from your perspective about that transition. I remember you also saying something about the kind of support you'd had in primary school and the support you wanted in secondary school. You had a very particular thought about additional support in the classroom.
So secondary school, one of the things I always said was I didn't want someone sat next to me, and it's not because I didn't need support. It's not because I didn't appreciate the support. It's just purely because in primary, I suppose the students at primary aren't as aware to conditions as people are in secondary school. So what I was worried about going to secondary school is I didn't want a TA sat next to me for the whole class to see and then be that kind of target for them to bully or think of me as being thick or stupid, or you know, because they're all known as the kid that needs someone with you because you can't learn by yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not the case, you know, we all know that, but to people at that age at the time, they don't see it like that. So I asked them, you know, if you could just be in the room, because I'm still going to need help. I'm still, you know, I know
so
that.
Many of the other young people in the
You
class.
know, and I just said, is there any way we can do it so it just doesn't look as obvious? You know, is there any way that you can't just be in a room and help everybody, but also know that you're going to have to help this individual a bit more because they suffer with this, or they're on this, you know, they've got this disability or that. And they said, you know, not a problem, we'll sort that. But then the first lesson, she sat next to me, and it was just like all the kind of thought and the
And was she
care.
kind of stuck to you, velcroed a little bit?
That's the thing as well, it's very inconsistent because you have a different TA for every lesson.
Yeah.
So even being able to get to understand that TA, you know, you would start to kind of develop relationships with different TAs, which is a good thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you had one that you necessarily didn't get on with, or vice versa, then if you ever had like a maths lesson and you knew you were going with said TA, it would put you off the lesson because you wouldn't want to be, you know, with that person.
And those are really difficult things to be able to articulate as a young person. Could the support be different? There is expertise in the room. I'll introduce you to Rob Webster later. He's done some excellent work around maximising the potential for TAs and different working with TAs that you know, maybe would have worked better, for example. Let's have a think about next steps. Thank you, Max. So yeah, this is really interesting. I'm very interested in the role of compassion in education. I think actually, I like this quote in particular, perhaps the biggest enemy of compassion is conformity. So I think actually in the work that I've experienced with young people in a variety of different settings, actually at times we as teachers do need to be quite unconformist in our interactions and our work with children and young people, and that might be around kind of curriculum opportunities. It could be around actually taking space out of a lesson to have the opportunity to talk about some emotional aspects and having that kind of flexibility and freedom to even tweak aspects of the behaviour policy, for example. And I'm hoping Max and I can have a bit of a discussion later around behaviour management, which I know is another big core theme as part of the conference today. I've got a very nice picture that I didn't, and Max has chosen all the images here, but I'm really pleased that actually we've got the words values here, because at the core of our curriculum at the independent special school, which I was lucky enough to have involvement with the design, was work around Dr. Neil Hawkes, who's here today actually, his book's available, around values-based education. So at the very centre of our curriculum was values: respect, responsibility, tolerance, unity, 22 different values that we revisited over the year. We followed the national curriculum, so maths, English, science, modern foreign languages, art, technology, creativity and so on, but lots and lots of opportunities for outdoor adventurous activities, forest school activities, motor vehicle maintenance and all that kind of stuff. And it's really interesting that Max and I have had the opportunity to talk about this kind of aspects of the curriculum he enjoyed, and certainly we were very aware of people's preferences around either enjoying kind of more formal learning or kind of opportunities for outdoor adventurous activities and so on. And Max didn't like much of the outdoor stuff.
No.
Much preferred to be in the classroom, getting on with his work and learning hard.
Yeah.
So again, listening to the voice of Max and the others, I think it's really important around that aspect of curriculum design. We're going to talk about qualifications a little bit because Max has been involved in some really exciting work in the House of Commons and the House of Parliament that I'm hoping he's able to talk about a little bit later.
Absolutely.
Okay.
As you say, I think it's important because even though the activities I knew I didn't like, it was still important that I participated with the other people. And I think the good thing about the school was that we ended up at was, you know, they really supported you to do that. You know, they really kind of said, look, you might not like it, but it's really important for you to get the skills and learn this stuff.
Yeah.
And they're always understanding as well about that. And to be fair, you know, someone like me who's going to be in the class, you know, the other kids were running out, you know, because it was just a nice kind of activity for them. You've got someone a bit geeky like me that just wants to stay in and do the work.
Yeah.
My dad says I'm not a manual worker, as
That's
he says.
right.
So
You thought it was manual labour, didn't you?
Yeah.
Going off and doing construction. What am I doing this for? I don't want to be in the classroom learning.
and to a certain degree, he is right. You know, it's I just don't like it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. Personal preferences.
But again, I thought it was important for me to have that bond with the other people.
Yeah.
You know, and again, they kind of really support you in that. You know, they really kind of said, you know, yeah, we'll be there, we'll help you do it. You know, so
Great.
it's really important. Just getting back to the school things, because what I forgot to say was after I left secondary school, I went to a special school in Oxford, which is where I met John.
Yep.
John was the deputy head at this school, and I loved it there. I mean, I always go on record and say, you know, the education probably wasn't at its best just because of the environment it was, but the support that school gave to every individual, I could not ever knock. You know, these guys got punched, kicked, swore at.
Not by Max, I will say. Never sworn at by Max. Never any physical aggression from Max. And that again is something really interesting. Max arrived, I still remember Max's interview, and he arrived in a very smart suit. Leather jacket, in fact. Yeah, leather, very cool. No cap on that occasion, I don't know. No cap. But Max, on the first, you know, as part of the kind of induction interview process, had made a commitment to learning and sort of achieving. I'm not going to say too much about Max's sort of achievements in the school because I think that will come up a little bit later. But I will drop in the fact that Max was the chairman of our school council for 3 years. Made significant contributions to the design of the curriculum, made significant contributions to the design of the environment, the school environment. Without Max, there would have been certain additions. Max might like to share the first thing that he thought was most important for a school, which we didn't have. It was a complete oversight of staff and neglected to include this.
I was outraged that they didn't have this item.
He was very disappointed.
I was very disappointed. So, if you go into a toilet in any school, you always have a mirror.
You should have mirrors.
There was no mirror. I was sat there trying to do my hair and I couldn't.
Very
It
proud
traumatised me.
teenager. Couldn't do his hair. Looking at the taps I found in one
Do you know
day.
what the saddest thing is?
Yeah.
You can see me just looking into this make-believe mirror and going, I'm going to run for school council.
I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
You can do this.
You know what I mean? Maybe that's how Trump started. I don't know. Maybe he wanted mirrors. Maybe he wanted a mirror in the White House.
Oh
I don't know.
Let's not go down that road.
But yeah, that's what done it.
Yeah,
So,
very interesting. But we had you know, healthy snack shop. We had a bike track set up in the end. We had a pitch.
yeah,
all
and
kinds
again, we had to think about it because the first thing that we thought about with mirrors is people get aggressive, people can get angry. What happens if they smash the mirror, they cut themselves, or you know, God forbid they use it as a weapon or anything. So then we went for stainless mirrors.
Yeah.
And it was just about having that conversation, and that school allowed us to have that, you know.
Allocation of money and a fairly good budget.
Yeah.
Spend it on what you like.
It was a lovely school, and as I say, you know, it's probably some of the best years of my life. And the teachers there, you know, they were more my friends than the students.
Another student once said to me, I was really proud of this actually, thank you Max, the school felt more like a family than a school. And I think that's a really positive opportunity, but that wouldn't have happened without the support of the young people. So I think it was very much about ethos, culture, values that we try to enact in ourselves, values that you've certainly enacted in yourselves. So perhaps we could move on from curriculum design.
Qualifications versus life skills, which kind of goes into what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So basically, the reason I say about the education at this school was because sadly this school didn't offer GCSEs. So when I left school, I thought, what am I going to do with my life?
And that's really, that's really important to recognise. I know we've got people here from curriculum development design areas, and this is something that Max is, again, talking around in Parliament about apprenticeships and the entry-level requirements for some of these courses. And although all our subject areas were accredited, Max has got quite a significant national record of achievement, so all the off-site stuff was accredited, all the inside stuff was accredited, and Max will tell you how he fought with particular colleges to be entered in for the higher levels of particular papers and all that point. But I think this is really interesting as well about what employers are looking for.
Yeah, I looked up on the web, on the internet, what do employers really need? What are they looking for? And this was a survey done by BBC, AGR, Microsoft have done it as well. And these are all the things that they look for.
Verbal communication, tick, I think we would all agree. Very articulate young man.
But it's amazing that the one thing that isn't on there is qualifications. That amazed me. And I'll be honest, every job interview I've gone to since I've left school, apart from my first ever job, they don't ask me for what my qualifications are now.
Yeah.
And it amazes me because you spend so much time as any pupil, any student, you spend so much time wanting to earn your grades, and you think if you don't, life's going to be terrible.
It's a lot of
what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And you put yourself under a lot of pressure, and then you come to find out that, of course they do matter, but to a certain degree, when you go for an employer and they don't even ask you, you kind of think, well, aren't you going? You kind of want them to ask,
where's your qualifications?
You're going to ask. I bought my book.
Your national record of achievement.
So I just thought it was really interesting that that's what they look for, because the sad thing is there's only 16% of people with autism in full-time work, and that hasn't changed for 10 years. And the fact is it is down to qualifications and learning, and they don't know how to support people with autism either in the workplace.
Which is again part of the campaign that Max has been working on for a number of years, but we'll save that for a little bit later. So I think the next is a quote from another young person that I worked with, and again it kind of supports what Max is saying here. This was part of an interview back in 2005 with a year 10 bit quick cue. So I will read this out for those of you at the back there. And I do agree with this statement, actually. This was a very articulate young man, particular strengths in online gaming. At one point he was third in the world in a particular game, very enthusiastic, very motivated. I think the idea about reading about someone is bad. I think qualifications are a bit messed up, because when you look at someone and they've got like 10 GCSEs, and you look at someone else and they've got 2 and a number of small qualifications, and they're both completely capable of doing something, but on paper this person looks better or higher than the other person, that's not necessarily true. I think jobs and work should have been more involved in actually looking at the person, more than the bits of paper, and the same should be true of all schools around the world. I think that's really interesting. This young man, if I can just continue the story here, had a very interesting work experience placement. We were near the centre of Oxford, essentially. We managed to find this young man a work experience placement at the University of Oxford in their music technology department. And he was very excited. He was very interested in the technological aspect of music and production. And so I dropped him off, and I introduced him to his mentor and support workers and so on for the week, and I thought he was going to have a wonderful time. He was really excited. We'd gone on a tour, he saw the technology and all that kind of stuff. Went to see him halfway through. It's a 2-week work experience placement. Went to see him and was asking, went in very, how's things going? And he was really flat, he was very despondent, he was really disappointed. And I said, what's been happening on your placement? And he said, see that room over there? He said, I've spent the week in there. And I said, what have you been doing in there? And he said, shredding paper and doing odd bits of photocopying. And I thought, well, that's not the kind of experience we were looking for really for this young man. And so I had an opportunity to talk to the support person from the company side of things. And I said, listen, this young man is really able in terms of thinking about technology. Just let him have a play with it. Take him into the music technology room And the music technology group had a mixing desk as long as this panel here at the front here. And anyway, came back a week later and he was brimming with confidence. He was a different young man. He was really enthusiastic. He was really excited to be able to say, look, come and see what I've been doing this week. And I went to speak to the tutor, the support chap at the other end, and I said, how's his week been this week? And he said, it's been absolutely incredible. He attended the sessions with the Oxford University undergraduates in their second and third year, and after day 2, he was responding quicker and more effectively to the questions from the tutors than any of the Oxford undergraduates. And I was like, boom. Why didn't he have that experience in the first week? Because actually they limited their expectations. They'd read on paper, they'd heard about his autism and his learning difficulties, and they really reduced their expectations for this young man. And actually the second week, once they'd raised the expectation, they'd given him the opportunity and let him play with the stuff, he really impressed and had a wonderful experience. So again, there's some messages there for employers, I think, and Max is going to talk a bit more about his experience of employment shortly. College and work, good,
Yeah,
smooth,
yeah.
I like it.
This is new college, with a nice checkered shirt.
Very smart.
And that's me at my last employer, Sovereign, where I was at for 4 years. So just quickly, I'm just going to let you know what got me to this stage. So I left school with no GCSEs I had, and basically it was coming up to my last week's sort of work experience, and I thought, what can I do to at least, you know, have some kind of something. Found Kaspersky, and they were a IT company. And I said, have you ever done work experience before? And they said, we've never done it. And I said, is it something that you'd look into? You know, is it something you'd like to do? I said, okay, yeah, let's do it. We'd do work experience. So I was there for 8 weeks. I walked in day 1 thinking I knew everything about IT, and I walked out that night and said, I don't know nothing. My mum was like, how was your day? I was like, don't.
Difficult.
Yeah, very good. You know, very confident young lad just walks in. He walked out a different man that day.
We've all done that, Max. Yeah. We've all done that.
They were going to take me on for an internship, but they moved their office down to London. So I thought, you know, what am I going to do? Yeah. So I went to college. I went for the job at IT at Sovereign. And funny enough, they were going to be taking 1 person on that year. It was out of 300 people. We got it down to 50 for the interviews. Everyone turned up in a suit. I turned up in a checkered shirt and chinos.
Casual.
I thought, at that point, I'm not going to get this job. However, somehow, some way, I impressed them. I took the books that I filled in at Kaspersky, because I actually filled up 2 notebooks in a week.
Wow.
So I took all the work I did and said, look, this is what I can do. Because at first I was really nervous, and they could tell. You know, I had an interview at another company, and it went very, very bad. You know, she was very.
Did you declare your autism at that point? Or?
No, but I didn't declare it Sovereign either at first, because I wanted to get the job based on me. I didn't want them to judge me on this or that. I just wanted them to you know, see me, and you know, and they did. And funny enough, there was one woman who was trained in autism, and I didn't tell her, but in the room she worked in HR, and apparently she did say to someone, I reckon he's got Asperger's. So, and she was always very
It's an interesting tension, I think, for young people, which again we can talk about shortly.
But at work as well, just really quickly, I was there for 4 years. They were very supportive. Decided to leave after 4 years. There weren't enough progression, and I wanted to progress in my career. But they were such a supportive work and lovely company to work for. You know, I had so many milestones there. I mean, for instance, maths took me 8 times. So again, with this qualification thing, I had to pass maths level 2. Yeah. And I took that 8 times to pass. They stuck by me, they supported me, and then off the back of that I won the Apprentice of the Year for West Berkshire in 2016.
Very good.
So it just shows you how much...
Yes, that is worth a round of applause. Thank you. Huge amounts of perseverance, this young man.
I think it also shows that if an employer gives you that support and they stick with you and they just kind of go, it's all right, we do it.
Yeah, we can do it.
It helps so much.
Because actually, one of the colleagues was thinking actually to take it an 8th time might be too much in terms of your...
Yeah, so to handle the qualifications. And basically this phone call was like a movie call, you know. So they said, I went for this 7th time and I'd done atrocious. I absolutely just, something in my head just went, no, I can't do it. Yeah. And I'd done it, and I knew I didn't do well. So she rang me and she said, look,
this is number 7.
This is number 7. And she said, look, this did not go as well as the last one. So we're thinking about putting you back to basics, you know, putting you back in class and learning again. And I just said, I know I done terrible on the last one. I said, but I just said, give me one more shot.
Yeah.
And she goes, we would, but we don't want to dishearten your confidence. We don't want to dishearten you. You know, we don't want you to give up. And I said, look, I'll take this 20 times. I'm not going to give up. I said, look, put me through it one more time. If I fail again, I'll go back to lessons. And she said, all right, yeah, okay, we'll do that. And I said, thank you. And then I passed right on the dot, 32 out of 32.
I can relate. It took me 5 times to get my GCSE maths, actually. It's not quite 7, but GCSE maths.
Just relationships and respect.
I mean, I've got a lot of respect for this young man, and I've got a lot of respect for the other young people that I used to work with. And for me, we talk about behaviour management. I hate the phrase behaviour management. I hate any concept of having to manage the behaviour of the young people that we work with. You'll have heard plenty of messages over the last few days about behaviour management. But for me, I think relationships, responsibilities, respect are 3 of the most important aspects of my relationship and interactions with the young people. Max is now going to share a little bit about these other really important influences around whether or not a young person has a positive experience throughout their educational experiences and beyond, through adolescence into the big wide world of work and so on. So,
I mean, parents and family, I think, is so important. If you've got people around you that understand and will support you. My mum, bless her, she's had to put up with a lot from me. You know, from a young age, she's really had to kind of sit me down and explain things probably over 100 times for me to understand. And it's probably got to me to where I am now. Teachers, the best teachers I ever met were the teachers at our school. Supportive. I don't know how they came in the next day after getting punched, kicked.
Unconditional, positive regard, we call it, Max, but you don't know that.
I don't know how you've done it, to be honest. Students, I always found it hard because it's finding the right things to say. I think I've always got on with older people anyway. You know, my idea of a weekend is EastEnders and my feet up. You know, and that's not something I should be. Yeah, but that's not something someone 21 does.
Not
you know, but that's my ideal weekend. So I've always kind of, while kids were going to Newbury, I was going around the village making a soap.
It was EastEnders.
My camcorder, you know, it's.
But Max was always a great buddy for the younger children. You know, whenever we had a new pupil around, Max would show them around the school, would look after them. Yeah. We'll talk about, well, again, co-workers at work.
Yeah, co-workers are, you know, some, I think, if anything work's taught me is some people, you know, you're going to get on with, some people you're not. But it's also about understanding them. I think it's made me more tolerant going through the things that I have, just because when someone else is a bit different or someone else is a bit stuck in their ways, you kind of can understand it a bit more because you kind of go on like that. And you know,
I think we're all like that sometimes.
Support workers. I mean, we have some support workers at the school.
Yeah.
I think to be there and speak and know that they're there and be able to speak about anything is really important. And friends, I don't have many friends, but I find the friends that I do have are really important in my life. And if someone said, would you want 100 friends or would you want 3 close ones, I'd pick 3 any day. Because I've literally probably got about 3-4 friends that I could confine anything in. And to me, that's better than 100 friends who's going to go around and say, oh, did you hear about that? Did you hear about this? What they give you. You know, I know I could tell my friends anything and they'd be there. You know, and that's, they're more like family in the end.
Really important.
And again, strangers, I think, was just something always growing up. You know, so my mum always kind of had to say to me, make sure, when you're speaking to people, look them in the eye, because, you know, it's polite and it can show that. And she'd done that because she knew that I'd struggled with that concept. And because I suffer with OCD as well, she knew that morally, if she told me it was rude, she knew that I would do it. So she kind of used the disability to an advantage to get me to do it. But then again, it's going over the things again. You know, the strangers, don't do this, don't do that. But doing it over and over for me to understand, because we see things very much black and white. Why can't we say hello to this person? Why can't we do that? And once you get explained to a bit more, you start to understand a lot more.
Well, again, it's just, again, for me, going back to the notion that actually, and it goes back to that notion of personal qualities and attributes of the staff. I think the teachers that you're working with, the young people, the support staff, the ethos, the culture, and a commitment, really, and a commitment and a kind of courage to be able to unconditionally look at some of these behaviours and actually really think about where they're coming from. And often that could be around anxiety and all kinds of other aspects.
So I always end on this. So how do you help someone like you with autism? So the first question is, what is autism? And we all know it affects people differently. So autism isn't just a quite blunt answer. You know, it affects everyone individually, and that can even be harder to understand. So the next question is, does it affect everyone the same? And the answer is an astounding no. So the end question of all this kind of stuff is, so what is the answer? Because you're all probably thinking, well, what is the answer? You can't tell us what autism is because it affects everyone differently. It doesn't affect everyone the same. So what is the answer? And my answer is, to be quite honest with you, learning together. So, nice photo of me and John there.
I like that picture.
I find the best people I've ever interacted with is people that want to go on that journey with you, people that don't judge the condition but actually want to understand it. And the only way they understand it is by learning together with it. So you learn about them, just like I learned about John. I learned about, you know, what John's mission was in life and how he felt. You know, it's really important as well to understand what a teacher really wants. And when they tell you what they want and why they're doing it, it helps you, and then you feel that you can confide in them to tell you what you need. And then that's where the learning together comes in. But not only that, once you've learned together, then it's about evolving together.
I love the phrase, learning together, evolving together. And actually we've taken that phrase from Max's mother. It was Max's mother that talked about how she evolved as a mother through Max's, you know, experiences.
My mum always used to say, normally your children grow up with you, but I've had to grow up with Max. You know, my mum's always said that, and I think it's very true. But as well as evolving, you know, it's quite an old story how we kind of came back together, wasn't it, really? So did you want to kind of share what you've done once? Because obviously John left the school and I left the school, so we lost contact. We lost contact, we didn't know what was going on in each other's lives. So
I've never forgotten a young person I've ever worked with. I still remember all the names of all the children and young people I've ever worked with. And it's an odd experience when children progress and move on. Where do they go? What are they up to? And I always wonder these. And we don't keep records, we don't keep in touch with the young people that we've worked with. And so I happened to be at a conference one day and I bumped into a colleague that was still working at the school. I said, I always think about, Max was in one of my first classes, a brand new special school. I always think about, you know, I won't name names, these people, this person, this person. They said, oh, you know, Max is now on television. I thought, oh wow, there we go. She said, yeah, he's been in Holby City, he's been in Casualty, he's been in a movie, he's done all kinds of stuff. And I thought, well, he might be on social media. So I looked him up on social media. There he was, 8,500 followers on Twitter. Tweeted him, do you remember me? It's Mr. Reed. And he came back, oh, Mr. Reed, how are you? Da, da, da. And we got communicating on social media. And I noticed the National Autistic Society were looking for an actor. And I knew that Max was now an actor. I said, maybe it's worth going for. I think you might, you know, have a go, see what happens. Max got in contact with the National Autistic Society, and from there...
Yeah, I got the part for that as well, so... John.
So you may recognise Max from last year's National Autistic Society national campaign about the employability of young people with autism, and recognising again that 86% of people with autism are not in employment. And I think this is a shocking statistic.
Yeah, I mean,
So since then, Max has been invited to the House of Parliament. We might just have time to say a brief thing about what you've been doing at the House of
yeah,
Parliament.
so basically once John had gone, you went on to Oxford Brookes.
I did.
Become a lecturer.
Yeah.
And so you start training now teachers to go into that field of...
Yeah. Particularly encouraging teachers to work in special education. That's my role really at the university.
As I say, and then I sat home one day, I joined soccer and I said I want to be an actor, and I said to myself, we'll go out and do it. So I went out and done it. I emailed people like mad. I got an extra job and there was a rope, and basically extras were on this side, actors was on this side. I went over the rope and pretended I was an actor and got all the information I needed to become one. And then off the back of that, I had an email from Holby City to say come up for an audition, because at this point I must have sent out over 1,000 emails, and I got the part for that. And then, as John said, because he got in touch, I got the National Autistic Society job. And now what they do is they invite me up to Houses of Parliament. So what I'm doing up there now is I have round table discussions with MPs, some lords,
A few ladies.
ministers.
Yeah, like you do.
And I just basically say, what they could do to help us, because as I say, it's all about learning together, evolving together and coming together. And they like to, I think sometimes they think that everything is all well and good. And when they hear the story of people that it isn't going well, or the struggles that someone has had to face, it really opens their eyes. I mean, one boy even visited me at my workplace. He came down all the way from London and he visited Sovereign. And it was so nice just to have that bit of acknowledgement. Someone really understood and someone really wanted to make a difference. So now what I work on is making the qualifications, a better structure, an easier way for supporting people with needs, and also opening that employment gap for people who do suffer with conditions or disabilities. So these working environments, these schools, the government can again evolve together, learn together and come together.
Brilliant. And that probably is a really good place to conclude. So, thank you very much, Max. And would you like to ask any questions? I was about to clap as well. But are there any questions before we thank Max for his contribution today? Yes.
Hi. I was just wondering, do you think all through this journey you needed to go into special school?
That's a really good question.
It's a very good question.
I always said to my mum, I think I would have been really good with the friends up the road, who went to that school. But if I was to be honest, reality is I know people with the condition like myself who have not got on there at all, even with the friends and the support of their friends, and it still hasn't worked. I can honestly say, if I hadn't have gone to John's school, I wouldn't have learned the skills I have today. I wouldn't be so tolerant that I am, so understanding. I don't think I would have learned any of the values. I would love to say at this mainstream school I would have learned the education, but to be quite honest, I don't think I would have, because I don't think they would have had the time or the structure to go through it. So that school I really think was a crucial part of my life.
It's a really complex debate though, isn't it, this one, about actually, if the local authority had spent their money differently, could there have been additional support in the mainstream school? I find it very...
I don't think, to be honest, I think when you mix the two as well, like that other school did, with the ASD unit, I think sometimes it can get messy, because they're so focused on stats and statistics. They want to be able to say, 100% of our people in our ASD unit went on to get an A in GCSE or a B or a C. As that support school that I went to, there was no expectations.
Well, there were expectations. It's not that there were no expectations, we had very high expectations.
But they were different. They were in different areas. There wasn't none of this, you must get an A, you must get a B. It
much
was
more individualised.
making you a better person and teaching you everything that we could, not for a qualification standpoint,
It's interesting,
but for a knowledge.
But again, to be excluded from an ASD unit I really struggle.
Sorry, John, nothing happened.
No. Max was ushered out the back door of an autistic provision, and that's really interesting. Any other questions? I'm sure you're very hungry and you've got other things to go to.
If you're still here, thank you for watching this video. It means a lot to me. Give it a like down below, put your comments down below what you thought. And guys, thank you for watching. Take care. Goodbye for now.